Should you pay off your student loans or purchase a house? This has been one of the biggest questions I've received in my years as an agent. So stay tuned to the very end. Welcome, guys. This is Grace, and on today's episode, you get to hear the pros and cons of having a student loan payment or versus getting a house. I hear this a lot. I want to get out of the student loan debt, right? Which is understandable. I don't like debt either. But there's good debt and bad debt. It's not bad debt at all. It's good debt because it's helping you build credit, you see. And it's not really heavily looked at when you're looking at houses or you're trying to leverage wealth. So you have to think about that differently. So you're gonna hear about some of those pros and cons and what my decision has been so far. And some of the pros of getting student loans, let's start there. Okay, you get student loans because some of us who did not start in wealthy families, in fact, it was a dream to even get student loans. Because sometimes people don't realize that. My very first undergrad, I got assistance from a cousin, thank you Lord. I had a family member who was generous and helped me my very first year. However, the next 3 years, guess what? This girl had to hustle. I had to work several jobs to make sure that I made that payment prior to taking those finals. Because if I didn't make the payment before finals, I would never have to sit for finals. So a lot of people helped me along the way because one time I really could not afford to get all the money that I needed for finals. I talked to one of the administrators in the financial aid office, and she was like, you know what, Grace? I'll try to put a hold on your account. And this is normally not done. This is the US, because I know in Uganda, we have this where you always go to the school and the administrators can be like, we know your mom. Okay, you can stay for the semester. No. These people didn't know me. You hear me? They didn't know me. They didn't know my parents. I don't even have any parents here at the time. So it was one of these generous ladies. She holds a special place in my heart because I knew that she had to make exceptions and she didn't have to for me to make sure that I finished that semester. And the other problems people don't even know is when you come here as a student, guess what? You cannot miss a semester. Because you miss a semester, guess what that does to your status? You're out of status. That means you can be deported. So it can be so stressful because I was like, no matter what. I remember getting pregnant and I was still in school. I was like, I am not getting out of this school. You're not gonna catch me. You see, I like to follow the rules and regulations. And still, to me, I felt like also it's gonna limit me in the future. You see, that little one decision that you make, maybe I'm out of school this semester, and then that also messes me up later on. So that really can cause a lot of stress on so many of us. But even if you're not an international student or even if you're not a foreigner, I'm speaking to all of y'all. Think about student loans differently. When I got the opportunity to get student loans, guess what? It helped me relieve some of that stress. Because instead of me stressing about paying for the tuition and doing this and working so many jobs, I really was able to focus on school. And that's when I was able to graduate from nursing. So I'm grateful that I was able to graduate because I couldn't have done it if I didn't get student loan. So know what student loans are there for. They are there to help you. This is good debt. So accept it when you can. And I'm not saying abuse it because that's another thing. If you get so much of it and you really didn't need it, but if you know that this is what you needed this semester, use it. You see? And maximize your education because then it will take you very far. For like some of us who didn't start from anything. And also that talks about the mobility in income, because if you didn't have anything and you go to school and you're able to leverage from nothing to something, that's everything. I was able to triple my income. Before I was a CNA, making less than $20,000, you see, getting government assistance. When I became a nurse, in fact, that was always hard in me. I was like, I didn't come to America to depend on the government. No, no, no. I don't even like to depend on anybody. I don't even like to depend on my parents. So that's the person I am. So it has to be innate in you. Do you like to be a dependent on anybody? I'm very independent. Growing up, my parents knew I was one of those kids who did not ask for nothing. I always tried to figure out a way of getting things and making things happen. So coming here and I'm depending on people and that killed me until I hustled and worked hard and went to school, did everything possible to make sure that I would never have to depend on anybody. So whatever you have to do, get that education and also maximize it to build wealth so you don't have to depend on anybody. You see? And that's what student loans were able to do for me. Another thing about student loans also, you have to think about it. Most times, you can leverage the repayment system. Do you know you can die paying off student loans? I'm not saying it's a good thing, but they're not gonna come knock on your door. Grace, you can't live here. You have to pay your student loan there. No, okay. No, they're not gonna do that. Hopefully not. But you can pay the minimum that they need you to pay every month for years, and you'll be fine. That's all I'm saying. You will be fine. You will survive. So you don't have to have that thing of, I have to pay it. I have to pay it off now. I have to hurry up and make sure I pay it off right away. No. What if you don't get a job? What if you're back in school? Because then you can have a forbearance where you're not paying the student loans initially. So I'll mention some of the cons because I know somebody's going to say, oh, that's bad because of this. Okay, so now let's talk about the cons. The cons are, first of all, the $1 trillion that have accumulated. Of course, it's going to mess up with the U.S. debt. So I apologize. There's nothing I can do. I will say about that. Hopefully, we can figure out how to get rid of that $1.5 trillion debt because of student loans. But until then, I really don't know how to help with that. But let's talk about how you can continue making sure that you don't miss payments, you see? Because then these interests are still accruing. So you're gonna make sure that you pay at least a little more than expected, you see? Because then the interest is gonna continue accruing. So that might affect you in the future. It might not affect you now, but maybe later on down the line, it might affect you because sometimes nowadays, if you get married, somebody might not want to marry you because you have so much debt, which I understand that completely. I don't want somebody to come and jeopardize my wealth and my credit and whatnot because they didn't get their stuff together ahead of time. So you have to be careful about that. And also, when you're looking for houses or you're looking to build more wealth, that might come into play. So just make sure that you're in good standing, make sure that you don't miss payments, and just continue at least making even $100 extra from the minimum. That can help you a long way. Sometimes you graduate and you have all this debt from student loans and you might not get a job. Did I tell you how when I graduated in 2011, I couldn't get a job for a whole year? That was very devastating because in my mind, I'd worked so hard, worked several jobs to make sure that when I graduate, I've made it. I was so disappointed because when you graduate in a recession, there's nothing you can do. There are more people than jobs, you see, and more qualified people with experience. And so you're coming out of school, you might not get an opportunity right away. But I'm not here to discourage you. Just keep focusing because I was able to focus, continue working that part-time and PRN job and minimum wage job until I was able to go back to school. And so just figure out what your strategy is, but eventually it's going to work out in your favor if you don't give up. That's the biggest thing. And on the other part, I'll share why instead of paying off the student loan, I considered purchasing a house and also paying off a house in that way. So if you didn't watch my last video, you need to watch it because the last video I mentioned how I leveraged $100,000 to build $1 million. And that was because instead of paying off the student loan debt, guess what? I was able to pay off a home. And I can mention some of the pros. If you don't know, pros of real estate include Ideal is one of the acronyms I always use. Ideals talk about income, you see, depreciation. So that's a tax benefit. And the income is mainly from rentals. If you have somebody who's renting and paying you for your asset, that's great. So the depreciation, the tax benefit, whereby for a residential, it's depreciated 27.5 years, where you're getting those tax benefits. So talk to your CPA. E is the equity. You see, as much as you're paying down the mortgage, guess what it's doing? You're increasing your ownership in that particular property. You see, and that's the equity. You end up selling it, or whatever you do with the property, you get that equity from whatever percentage you own in that particular property. So that's the beauty of real estate. And let's talk about appreciation. So I always mention location. When you purchase in a good location, normally your values go up, see? And so when the value goes up, that's the difference between what you owe and what you sell for. So whatever the property is worth at the time. So you might buy the property for 100,000, and before you know it, it's 200,000. That's appreciation. So that's always a great thing, because then this 100,000, guess what? It comes back to you. You're not giving it to the bank or the lender. No, that's your money. Yes, I like that about it. And so the L is the leverage. Can you imagine how much you can leverage with real estate? Do you know you can get 10 mortgages as a single person? If you didn't know, just know that you have to think about your strategy right away. And we'll talk more about this in the next video. So you need to keep watching these videos, because how you can get one property and then plan another one, it's all about up here. Start with a plan. Don't just start and you don't know what you're doing and you fall in love with the house. That's the problem. Sometimes we get in love with this particular property and we're putting all these upgrades and we're doing this and we're doing that. Before you know, we don't want to move. I'm not saying don't make it home. Do whatever makes you happy. That's all I'm going to say. But for me, I already know my strategy. So when I get into a property, I already plan for it. So I'm not where I need to be, but when I get to that dream home, of course, maybe I'll know. But right now, I'm still taking every property as an investment. I get in it, this is an investment, ready for the next one. An investment, ready for the next one. Because my strategy is 2 properties a year. So you may understand that. But then, of course, with the cons of real estate, it depends on the market. Like this last year or so, we've had a change of the market, so interest rates went up, and then of course, you know, with the demand, it went down, and we did have a little challenge there trying to get the houses off market, but it's picking up. So the market changes. It's cyclical, so you never know what's going to happen with the market. That's the biggest thing with real estate, of course. And then also natural calamities, you see, so some uncertainties there. And then if you're renting it out, sometimes you really don't know who's going to take care of that asset, because they're not going to take care of it the way you would like to take care of it, you see. So it goes with its own challenges, but I'm not discouraging you from investing, because I'm an investor. Of course, I'm encouraging all of y'all to start. So you just have to think about your strategy, and should you pay off this particular home or buy it in the first place, or should you maximize your income and just worry about paying off that student loan debt? Because I've talked to many professionals, and some of them are literally just paying off that student loan debt, and I'm going the other route, but I'm building wealth as I go. You see? So make that decision and that determination for you. Listen, your needs, your wants, your desires, and until next time, mention in the comments below what you think. Talk soon.